Hi, fourth years. So we're going to move on with our notes and we're moving on to quadratic equations. This is on page 28 of your notes booklet, so make sure that you have that in front of you and pause the videos to fill in, or work ahead and fill it in if you want to. Now, we already looked through factorising and we've seen quadratic equations, and we spent some time where I talked about how we can solve quadratic equations either by the minus b formula or by factorising. So we can do it either way. Some people prefer one way, but if the question says solve, then you will have an equation as opposed to an expression, which means you'll have an equal sign. Will it always be equal to 0? No, if you look down at example 4, sometimes it will be equal to a number like this. However, our minus b formula, our quadratic formula, only works when we have quadratics in the form something times x squared, something times x, something else equal to 0. So it must be in this format. It must match this pattern exactly. A by the x squared, b by the x, nothing by the c, and equal to 0. And once you have a quadratic equation in that format, then you can use that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a to solve it. You can also solve by factorising. And set each factor equal to 0, and then you solve for your two values for x. Or a shorter way of saying this is that we factorise and change the sign. Okay, so these questions here on the front page, the first three examples, can all be solved by factorising, and they can also be solved using the minus b formula. I'm going to do them by factorising, and partially because it's slightly quicker, and partially because I want you to see that as an example, because we'll have plenty of examples using the minus b formula. I'll leave it up to yourselves to try using the minus b formula and see that you get the same answer. Using the minus b formula with something like this, you would say that b is equal to 0 because there's nothing multiplied by x. Using the minus b formula with something like this, we would say that c is equal to 0 because there's no constant. So that's a way we can do that. However, like I said, we're going to do these by factorising. There's a number in front of the x squared here, so I need to use my guide number. 3 by minus 12 is minus 36. And I'm looking for something that will add to give me 5 and multiply to give me minus 36. So they must have different signs. And 12 and 3 doesn't do it. 6 and 6 is no good. 2 and 18. 9 and 4. 9 and 4. So you can do your table out, of course. If I have a plus 9x and a minus 4x, we can see that those will add together to give me a plus 5, and they will multiply together to give me a minus 36. So I have 3x squared plus 9x minus 4x minus 12 equal to 0. We can ignore the equal to 0 for the most part till the end. And then I factorise by grouping. I've got 3x plus 3, minus 4, there's no 3x there, x plus 3 equal to 0. And I've got x plus 3 and 3x minus 4 equal to 0. And I leave each factor in turn equal to 0. So either x plus 3 is equal to 0, which means x is equal to minus 3, or 3x minus 4 is equal to 0, which means 3x is equal to 4 and x is equal to 4/3. Now, like I said, I leave it up to yourselves to use the minus b formula and show that you get exactly those two answers as well. This one, I said we can use the minus b formula with b equal to 0, or we can factorize it. What kind of factorizing is it? Two terms, minus between them, all perfect squares. This is the difference of two squares. 2x and 9 are my square roots. So 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9 equal to 0. Each factor in turn equal to 0. 2x plus 9 equals 0 means 2x is equal to minus 9 and x is minus 9 over 2. If you write x equals minus 4.5, that's perfectly fine as well. I tend to prefer to leave things as fractions. And 2x minus 9 is equal to 0. So 2x is equal to plus 9 and x is equal to 9 over 2. We sometimes write a solution like this as x is equal to plus or minus 9 over 2. So we can combine the two answers into a single statement like that. Okay, the third one, again, we could use the minus b formula with c equal to 0, and I'll leave it up to you to show that we'll get the same answer if we do that. Or we can factorize it. Now, I've got two terms, but there's not a minus between them. What have I always said? Common factors come first. So I can factorize out a common factor, 5x and x plus 3 equal to 0. What do I keep saying? Set each factor equal to 0. This tends to confuse people because they're used to just changing the sign. But this means that either 5x is equal to 0, in which case x is equal to 0, or x plus 3 is equal to 0, in which case x is equal to minus 3. And again, it would be good practice to go and check that with the minus b formula and see that you get the same answer. Okay, there's a hint in questions like this. When the question says something like, give your answer correct to a number of decimal places, or leave your answer in surd form, or give your answer in the form a plus or minus b root c. That's another way of saying surd form, by the way. There's a square root in the answer. If it says something like that, then there are no integer factors. So this hint in the question means there are no integer factors, and we must use the formula. We have no choice. First thing I need to do, though, is rearrange my quadratic equation so that everything is on one side equal to 0 with the x squared, then the x, and then the constant, because otherwise it doesn't work. You end up with the wrong signs, and so you get the wrong answer. 5x squared minus 2x, I bring the plus 25 over here, it becomes minus 25, equal to 0. Now I can label up my a, b, and c. When I use the minus b formula, you can write down a equals 5, b equals minus 2, and c equals minus 25. But I prefer to just label it above it. It's quicker and it's neater. It keeps things very straightforward. So I'm filling into the minus b formula that I've written up here. X is equal to minus b, minus a minus 2, plus 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, minus 2 squared, minus 4ac, all over, includes the 2's over this, 2a, 2 times 5. You can go from here any way you like. You've been learning this now for 3 or 4 years and you're used to it. However, I usually put this into my calculator in one go. So into my calculator I type the square root, including my brackets, -2 squared minus 4 bracket 5 bracket -25. The signs are really important. If you get an error when you press go on this, it means you've made a mistake typing in your signs or your brackets. And that gives me 6 root 14. 6 root 14. I don't change to decimals at this point. I'll just keep it in this format. And I rewrite on the next line, I can say that x must be equal to 2 plus or minus this 6 root 14 all over 10. And now I split it out into my plus and my minus, and I type each of those in turn into my calculator, and then I write it to 3 decimal places. So for the first one, press your fraction button first. 2 plus 6 root 14 over 10. Okay, so you can see that. That is matching what I have on my sheet here. I press equals, and if I was asked to leave it in third form, this is what I would write down. But I just press my SD button instead, and they said 3 decimal places, so that's going to be 2.445. 2.445. Now I need to do the same thing, but with a minus in front of the third. So I just come back here, excuse me, delete the plus and put in a minus instead. I press equals. It looks identical to the last one, except I have a minus instead. My SD button, I get a completely different number with that minus. And negative 2.045. And those are my answers. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to practice with those a little bit tonight. And tomorrow we're going to look at some word problems and more complicated looking quadratic trinomials, quadratic equations. So those are the answers there. Okay, so for homework, you're going to do page 52 of Text and Tests 4, question 1, A, B and C only, and questions 2 and 3 as well. And I will be uploading those into Google Classroom as well, the screenshot of it. So yeah, obviously you probably have your books at home, but if it's more convenient, you can just use the screenshot in Google Classroom. Okay, talk to you soon. Let me know if you have any questions or if there was something you didn't understand. Thank you.